reaching far. Getting close.
Okay, so let's start from the Ben Simmons saga right now. This is something that everybody's talking about, and not too many Ben Simmons fans happy about what Simmons is doing to the Philadelphia 76ers right now. But I want to get what you think as to what is happening to Simmons and Philly right now. And just lately talks that Philly would pay him, I think it's over $8 million. I mean, a lot really happening. So what do you have to say?
Yeah, I think, it's obviously one of the bigger storylines in the NBA right now. After the Sixers lost in Game 7 in the Eastern Conference semifinals to the Atlanta Hawks in last year's playoffs, there was also a notable moment at the end of that game where Simmons gave up a wide open dunk in order to pass it to a teammate instead. And there had been long-standing questions about his efficacy in the postseason, dating back to years ago against the Boston Celtics and then the Toronto Raptors. And now you have this, most recent loss where after the game, Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid both expressed their discontent, if you will, for Ben's lesser than performance. And it set the stage here where he no longer wants to be in Philadelphia. I think the Sixers would have loved to trade Ben for a different player of that caliber as well. But being that his value is at an all-time low from that poor performance against the Hawks, I believe he scored 0 points in the fourth quarter, right? We're at the point here where it's difficult for any team to offer the Sixers the high asking price they're still asking for, valuing him as a 25-year-old, 3-time All-Star, runner-up and Defensive Player of the Year, who's under contract for 4 years. That's something that, the Sixers are valuing quite highly. And from conversations I've had around the league, it just does not sound like there's been a team that has yet to step forward to the table and really put an offer that the Sixers want. And from here, we're just going to continue to see the staring contest where he's not going to report at this time. The Sixers aren't going to find him in that regard. And, now we're going to wait and see if Ben Simmons decides that he wants that money and he's going to show up. But I don't think we'll see a change here until the regular season starts. I think we'll need to see how the Sixers start off the year and how the other teams that have been interested in him, how they start off too. Maybe that will change some things.
Yeah, that's a superb one. But what do you think about how, this will affect Philadelphia 76ers side of the new season? Because now, Ben Simmons was part of last season all through. As a matter of fact, it was due to, his poor performance against the Hawks in the conference finals. The whole world was against him because he gave up an open dunk, passing the ball to his colleague. So now, do you think this will actually affect Sixers going to the new season?
It could. Right now their starting point guard is a second-year player, and Tyrese Maxey, who I didn't watch the game, but it sounds like he struggled last night in their first preseason game against Toronto. So it's also a lot of pressure. This is a team that hopes to contend for a championship around Joel Embiid, who finished second in MVP voting last year. So I think they clearly, are trying to move on from Ben with the idea of optimizing Joel Embiid's prime. And for that, that means that you're trying to take a 27-year-old big man who is arguably the best defensive player in the league and just finished as the runner-up for being the best player in the league. That means Tyrese Maxey being slid into the starting lineup isn't just that. It's to do so with the goal of competing for a title. So the pressure is on to see, how good he can be. And I think that's the biggest outcome here, in the early stage of this season, where if they start poorly, does that put Doc Rivers' job in jeopardy? Does that, then show other teams that Ben is valuable, and look how bad they are without him. I don't know, but I think that's the next wrinkle. We need to wait and see how it all unfolds.
Talking about one team still sticking with the Lakers, Jake, a lot of people, have said a lot as to, LA Lakers and how, tough they will be. Some set of people believe they have old players, so they probably won't get, that consistent, at some point. So do you think Trevor Ariza, joining Rajon Rondo, and of course, every other player that joined Lakers, how far do you think these guys can take them? And what is your own starting five if you had to, predict who's going to start for the Lakers?
I think Wayne Ellington will be in that starting lineup, and probably Carmelo Anthony. That's my guess. I could see Melo being on the bench too. But yeah, I think ultimately the Lakers have the firepower to get back to the championship. We'll see if it works. The spacing is going to be questionable. That's why I think Wade Ellington's going to be really important, and maybe they'll end up putting in another shooter in there in the lineup. But yeah, I mean, you got LeBron, you got Anthony Davis, you've got Russell Westbrook. I'd be surprised if they weren't, one of the top 3 seeds in the West heading into the playoffs.
Do you think Clippers has what it takes to do better than they did last season?
Better, probably not. I think they're still got a lot of talent. Look at Terrence Mann to really step up and try to fill Kawhi Leonard's void. And obviously it's going to be hard to do. It's Kawhi Leonard. He's taken 2 teams to the championship, and the Clippers got to the conference finals without him. But, he helped position them to get there. But I think as short of Paul George really cementing himself as the MVP of the league this year, I just don't see the Clippers having the same firepower as the Lakers and the Suns. And I mean, I think the Warriors are going to be a threat really in the West again this year too. So yeah. I don't know what to think of the Clippers right now with that Kawhi, but I don't think they're in that top tier.
All right. No, you mentioned JSW now, Golden State Warriors. I want to talk about Golden State Warriors. Klay Thompson is back for the new season, and fans will be so happy to have Klay Thompson back for the new season. Steph Curry is fit. DG still part of the team. Kevin Poole had a brilliant game in the preceding game played yesterday. What should you expect with Klay Thompson back from GSW?
I think the Warriors could easily be a top 4 team in the West. Why not? All right, Steph Curry had his best year last year. We forget that. Draymond Green clearly has taken a step back, but they've added some nice veteran pieces. With Otto Porter and Andre Iguodala. And they're really high on Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Jordan Poole. Yeah, should continue to take some strides. I think the Warriors, they do what they do. If they shoot the ball and they can get back to having a pretty solid defense like they did, that was a big staple of their title teams. I could see the Warriors being a top contender in the West. Yeah, I really do.
All right, with the Splash Brothers back, can we see a replica of what we saw in 2015, 2016, and 2017?
I don't think so. I mean,
okay.
The 2016, 2017 Warriors team was something special. And this team doesn't have a Kevin Durant on it, unfortunately, for Steve Kerr.
Keep talking about favorite teams looking forward to either of the new season. I want you to out of some of the teams we have in the NBA right now, I want you to pick a team, your own favorite team ahead of the new season.
My favorite team heading into the season?
Yep.
They're not a favorite, but I'm really curious to watch the Chicago Bulls. I really want to see what they turn into. They got Lonzo Ball.
Chicago Bulls? Why?
We got Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan and Nick Vucevic added to Zach LaVine, and they made some other little moves around the margins, like with Alex Caruso. Billy Donovan's proven he can take a team to the playoffs before. And there's some pressure on this front office to really make the postseason because Zach LaVine's contract is coming up. I think he wants to stay there. But I think ultimately, if they don't make the postseason, I don't think he will. And that's a real just a real thing. And I think it sets the stage for, the moves they made from Vucevic at the deadline to Lonzo and DeMar, adding Caruso. It just seems like, the time is now for Chicago to take a step into that playoff picture, and I want to watch it and see how it goes.
When I asked that question, I was thinking you mentioned Brooklyn Nets, but it's all good. Why looking into the Brooklyn Nets now?
I mean, the Nets are the Nets. I think you think back to that 2016-17 Warriors team, and they got a little boring at times, right? They were just beating teams by 30. And the third, fourth quarter of games, I kind of would turn off and I'd go watch the Utah Jazz, and that's when I started to really develop an appreciation for Gordon Hayward. I think this Nets team is going to be similar. Where is it going to be fun to watch them beat up on, the Magic, and anytime a team has an off night, they're probably not. They had the best offense in NBA history last year.
Yeah.
So they're probably only going to get better. And sometimes, I like to see a little bit more of a competitive game,
Okay. Aren't you worried that Kyrie Irving is not really putting enough dedication into this game anymore?
I don't know. I mean, the Kyrie situation is very peculiar, with him potentially, refusing to get vaccinated throughout the season and missing 41 home games. And how will that impact things in the postseason even too? But Kyrie and James and Kevin, they only played 8 games together last year in the regular season. So will that really impact them in terms of their record? I don't know. I think it's more important how it impacts the team in terms of a continuity standpoint, in terms of a locker room culture standpoint, and what it means for one of your supposed leaders on your team to make a decision that A, keeps them away from you and puts your team at lesser strength, but B, also puts you at a health risk too.
Yeah. All right. Talking about defending champions, Milwaukee Bucks right now, and led by Giannis Antetokounmpo, they had a remarkable season last year, and actually tipped them to go on to win the championship last year. I wasn't too surprised. But talking about the new season, you think it's going to be a little bit difficult for them, or do they have what it takes to go on and retain the title they won last season?
The Bucks are good. They won the championship, obviously, like you said, and they should theoretically only get better. I don't really know how much better. And I think also, the Nets are the Nets, and Miami's back in town. They got Kyle Lowry now. The Hawks are young, and they should only continue to improve. How can the Sixers remedy this Ben Simmons situation? The Knicks got Kemba Walker. If he can stay healthy, what can he do? There's going to be a lot of teams nipping at the Bucks' heels here. I do not think they are a runaway favorite here in the East. I still think with them in Brooklyn, they're in the top tier, but if the Bucks lost in the second round this year, I wouldn't be surprised either, because they almost lost in the second round last year. So, I think the East is very fluid. The Bucks are a great team, but they're just as vulnerable as any team, I think, in the East still.
True. Okay, let's talk about a team that had a season to forget last time out. That's Boston Celtics. Good news, they now have a new coach in Ime Udoka. He's a Nigerian. And now, talking about Boston Celtics and the new coach they have and some of the new faces, how far can Boston go this season?
Boston has a lot of pressure and responsibility, relying on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And can they continue to step up their games and create and shoot and score and play defense all at the same time? It looks like it, right? And that's the case. And they're putting on a Kawhi Leonard, Paul George impersonation. And that's a team that, many people expected to win the title. So they're still pretty young. Curious to see how the Al Horford addition goes. What can their young guys like Romeo Langford and Aaron Nesmith and whoever else, what can they really improve upon?
Yeah.
I said I'm moving too far. Getting lost.